Thank you, Karin. And it's my pleasure to be here and lead this discussion. I'm Rain. It's common name in Estonia. I already talked about that. And I have a few jokes about my name also, but that will come later. It's always my favorite thing to do. But why I'm here, and I'm really happy to be here, is that because I'm a real food enthusiast. Who knows me, I always have something fermenting at home. During the Corona time, I even sacrificed one room for my fermentation tests. I always have kombucha, kimchi, and I really believe that one area to grow, and it's not something new in this sense, but fermentation. And for example, kimchi, it's perfect meal, fermented vegetables. But I agree that we always need some meat alternatives, dairy alternatives to complement it. So I really believe it's the future that we are dealing with. And once more, before we start off, I recommend to ask questions because I have something for the best question. I have here a small surprise. So whoever asks the best question decided by our panel. Here are mushrooms, or fungi, as you know. And these are collected this weekend. Really good. I recommend to ask new questions. Thank you, Karin. And you can see magical mushrooms. I will talk about that later. But please, use the app and ask the questions. This year, the mushroom season was very bad, so these are real rarity. But so, let's kick off our discussion. Mariliis already had chance to introduce what she's doing, so please, first Divya and then Sirli, please give us a short overview what you're doing and how are you contributing to the alternative proteins.
Yeah, hi everyone, really great to be here today. I'm Divya Murthy, I'm the Senior Investment Manager at the ProVeg Incubator. ProVeg was, as Alan already mentioned some time ago, was one of the first and now one of the leading accelerators for alternative protein startups. And we work globally with many startups across the world. And yeah, really excited to be here. I'm leading the investments that we make in alternative protein startups, yeah, we support them and provide them all the tools that they need to increase their chances of success in the real world. Yeah, so that's a little bit about what we do.
Thank you. And it was nice to hear before the presentation, yes. Yeah. It's like make a bit of proud. And Sirli?
Yes, hi, good to be here. I have been 10 years working as a food scientist in TFTAK. And for those who don't know yet what TFTAK is, then it is a contract research organization, and it is focusing on developing innovative technologies in the fields of food sector and also biotechnologies. Today, I am leading research groups who are working with plant protein research, meat alternative development, and also sensory research. But during these 10 years, I have been participating and running different food-related projects in TFTAK.
Thank you. So now, Mariliis, I would like to ask you, what do you provide to founders in addition to capital?
Sure. So as a food scientist myself and having two colleagues here, former colleagues on the stage, I have a background in food science as well. So that's something that I bring to the table. But I was also born as a super taster, which means that I can find all your defects in your product really fast. And when something is like not to the highest standards, I can detect it immediately. But in addition to that, because my colleagues here trained me in sensory science and some in the room as well, I'm able to articulate when something is good or bad. What is it there that it's good or bad? What are the real words? Like, how does it relate to other things? Like, it's not just good, it's good because of A, B, C, D. So that's something that I usually do for my founders, and they're very grateful that someone actually says what they think versus just like, oh, it's good, you know? They actually are able to give you honest feedback. And then in addition to the food science insights and the product development, we always introduce our founders to our network, be it on the advisory side of things or be it for follow-on investors. Because we invest in such an early stage, our founders, I mean, if they want to survive, they have to keep fundraising. That's something that we support them as well with.
Thank you. I totally agree that honest feedback is very important. If you want honest feedback, I'm also available. I can be also very critical, but also help you to find the ways how to be better. And I must say, I'm really proud that Mariliis is here. She was my bachelor student at some point, so very nice to be here. But do you also offer some mentoring on consulting?
Not outside of our companies, but whenever our company has something they want to know about or ask about, then yes, we do. So I do everyday things like, okay, you want feedback on your pitch deck, you want to do that with me, but with Ryan, who is my partner, sometimes founders call him 10 p.m. on a Friday and say, I'm going to fire my co-founder now. And then Ryan is the one who has to put out the fire. So he's the Batmobile. If something goes wrong, he's the one you call to.
Okay, thank you. And Sirli, what is the role of companies like TFTAK in bringing novel products on the market? Maybe giving also some few examples?
Yeah, so I think TFTAK and also other research institutes, they contribute in different technological levels. So we also conduct some basic research that is mainly maybe funded from public sources. We have been very lucky to have, for example, different GFI funded projects. But when we talk about how we directly help specific companies, then we help them really from the whole range. So starting to put together the concept, starting from the idea, knowing our insights, giving our insights from the market. So previous speakers have already said that time is very crucial. So I would say that we will help the companies to save time on development. They don't have to reinvent the bicycle. We have done it before, and we know how to help them to move fast and grow fast.
So do you recommend everybody to look this kind of, let's say, scientific support and also maybe some neutral feedback? Because we heard also earlier that sometimes there are claims, or as Mariliis told in her presentation, that now there is more talk about that maybe not all the products on the market are not the best taste, and the taste is still lacking a bit.
Of course, we are happy to give our feedback also, and you asked also about some examples. So I'm happy to say that in Estonian market we have products developed in collaboration with TFTAK in both meat and dairy alternative category. So Tormi brand, which we will all have a chance to taste during the lunch break, and also the dairy brand that was presented in the expo area.
Thank you. And Divya, what are the main things that startups come looking for you in an incubator?
Yeah, so one of the things that is super valuable is our tailored program. So we have a 3-month-long program where we work actively with the startups. For example, our current cohort has over 50 sessions with workshops and alumni, fireside chats. Experts like even Mariliis have come and spoken about, their... Oh, sorry. Thanks. Yeah, so we've had all kinds of experts coming in and guiding the startups across different areas that are super valuable to them. So the tailored program, then we provide access to an extensive network. So we have a huge network of mentors, over 100 mentors globally, and corporate partners and investors that we put the startups in touch with. So essentially everything that they would, all the ecosystem that they would need support from is something that we provide. And finally, funding. So we provide up to 250K euros worth of funding for startups, and to really help them kickstart and move forward.
Can you maybe highlight what is the main question or help they actually are looking for? You told all the nice process, but can you maybe, is it possible to highlight what is the lacking mostly?
I think one of the main things is, of course, access to the ecosystem, and we're very well positioned because we have over 80 alumni startups globally, and there's really so much knowledge within this community, and I think this is something that they really find value in.
And maybe, I don't know if it's nice to highlight some very good examples, but you can pick your personal preference, maybe 1 or 2 very successful samples, and maybe one example that was not so successful, but there is something to learn from it. Can you give maybe this kind of example?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it's very hard to choose from our startups. We obviously believe in all of them and we support all of them, but Yeah, maybe I could say Remilk, which is an Israeli startup that is working in precision fermentation. They're producing dairy proteins, and they closed earlier this year a round with 120 million to set up their facilities in Denmark. So that's really cool. And then another one that I can think of is Hooked, which is a Swedish plant-based seafood company, and they're already in like retail, and yeah, they're doing quite well too. So yeah, those are the two I can think of. And on to the second question that you had in terms of setbacks and lessons that we think I could share today. One is, of course, adaptability. I think it's really, really critical for founders to, of course, you come in with a certain vision of where you want to take your company, what kind of product you want to build, but it's really necessary to keep track of what your market is telling you and what feedback you're getting from your partners. And yeah, be agile and quick to adapt very quickly.
Okay,
yeah,
so the lack
that's-
of adaptability, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just strict to your own vision and you don't adapt with the market or the
Yeah.
situation changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say, which I think is also useful, is in terms of funding, and not only how to fundraise, but also in terms of the approach you need to take to what to do once you have raised the money. And one lesson that is really useful is to think of this as your last funding round. How would you try and get to profitability as soon as possible? And what's the path you need to take to get to that point as fast as you can? So that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And to the Mariliis, if someone would like now to invest in this space, what are the options out there?
Sure. So I don't think we have in the room, but we do have an investor from Estonia, which I'm really, really proud of. We are a American fund. Sustainable Food Ventures is located in North Carolina, where I'm based. However, everyone is able to join the fund. So usually when we talk about venture capital funds, it is usually institutional funds that invest in them. However, AngelList platform, which we are active on, made a new financial innovation where individuals can join as investors to our fund. And we are a rolling fund, which means every quarter is a new fund for us. And we accept investments starting from $5,000 per quarter. So we have many different individuals, but also institutional investors. However, if US and all that seems like too far, and also you would like to make more active decisions yourself, so in our fund, we make the decisions for you, and we share the upside. There is a fund being formed at the moment called TFTAK, and they're a European fund. There, the investment sizes are from $1,000, I think, in the future. And you can choose which companies you want to invest in directly on the platform. So you can learn about them, talk to them, and then make a investment alongside with other business angels. And then I recently, last week, was at the EstBAN, so the Estonian Business Angel Network Summit Day. They'd celebrated their 10 years. I don't know if they've already made investments in the alternative protein space, but I hope they will in the future. And I think that could be a network for the people here in Estonia to invest in if they start making alternative protein investments.
Thank you. And Sirli, you have a long experience in the science field also. How often do you see that the new startup is struggling with a problem that you can solve maybe in a seconds or maybe in a few sentences, few hours?
I'm not sure if we have seen a problem, but we have tested or tasted different products that we know that we could provide them solution to make these products even better. So that we see very often in different categories, but also, of course, in this alternative protein space.
Have you contacted them in this case, or?
To be honest, no.
Maybe they'll talk in the future that it will be maybe beneficial. But we talk about the alternative proteins. What do you believe? What can be the most potential alternative protein in the future?
I think when we looked at the slide that Mariliis was having, that around 50% of investments are going to the plant-based proteins. So I think in terms what we see on the market today, this is more driven even by plant-based proteins. So most of the products currently available are really based on plants. And there has already been one presentation today about fungi and mycoprotein. So definitely this is an area which is going to grow. And also cultured meat category. And I think in plant-based developments, there has been innovation going on already for many, many years, so 10 years at least. And maybe there is a bit more difficult to find any new innovations and the struggles with plant proteins regarding off-taste and that kind of thing. So this is also maybe an issue which makes another types of alternatives raise.
Thank you. So we have questions from audience. There's long ones. I will read them and then we can, whoever wants to go for first. What do you think about the interaction between startups and the established animal-based food corporations to accelerate the protein transitions? What are the pros and cons? Do you have an example of this from your experience? So the interaction between the startups and the established animal-based food corporations. Who wants to go first?
I could start. So very often we've seen corporate partners who are very, very proactive. We have industry roundtables where there's a lot of, during the incubator program, that is where there is a lot of interface between the startups and corporates. We've also seen these strategic potential partners becoming actual partners with a lot of startups, becoming investors and taking a more active role in their product development, in their R&D and so forth, because there's a lot of value in this if they are looking for the future.
Any other talks?
So the first company that came to mind is a company that is working in the cell-based side of things, so cultured meat, and they're actually looking into partnering at the moment with the strategic that is really familiar with all the supply chains, all the different markets, and they're looking to see whether there's a way to partner beyond capital, whether there's a partnership between innovation transfer in terms of like, you know, you could license something or work something, or maybe we could co-brand something. So there are very many different ways how these partners can interact, and I really hope that the sunset industries are not going to just disappear, but they are going to join to the next phase of innovation and the next phase of the future of food, because they have established brand names, but they also have established supply chains, which I think is one of the hardest things to probably set up as a small company.
Yeah, totally agree. And there is another long question. Oh, more questions are coming. That's very nice. The long ones are really hard. I will try to go through them and then you can pick whoever wants to ask. We can see support for plant-based food for food producers in terms of R&D and from private investors. A lot of good products are already on the market, but we can see that they have a challenge in competing to meet dairy terms of price. How to make these more ethical, climate-friendly and healthy products more available in terms of price? So the price question again, I see Mariliis wants to answer, then Sirli can answer also.
Yeah, so the same answer that the US government in 2019 invested 25 million to alternative proteins and then 425 to traditional industry. So the traditional industry really has had more than 100 years to really carve out the space for themselves in terms of funding, regulation, politics, lobbyists, consumer awareness. So they really have built an industry over the course of a whole century and more. But I think the moment we give all the actors in the food space a level playing field, meaning we regulate them equally, we fund them equally, I think we are going to reach to a place where the price of plant-based alternatives already today, but all the other technologies in the future are going to be so much more affordable than what we have in the traditional industry. So I really think this is up to the public sector to fix that front, and and last favorite, I promise, is that if we regulate cultured meat and cell-based meat, and we want to know everything that goes inside of that cell that is grown outside of the animal, then I want to know on my label everything that went into that animal over the course of its year. All the antibiotics, all the plastic, all the cardboard, I want to know exactly everything that went into that animal before it's being labeled and packaged and sold to the final customer.
That's a really good point. Before the presentation, we also heard that there is something behind the curtains that that was not mentioned. So yeah, this kind of transparency will be really good. But as it was also said in different presentations earlier, that maybe they don't want to bring it out. Sirli, what about you? Can you comment from the R&D side in this price?
Yes, Mariliis very well explained already how difficult subject the price matter is, and there is. Of course, there are some things that you can still do on technology side as well. So there are some technologies that require less resources, and of course in ingredients list you can also see if you can achieve the same results with some maybe cheaper ingredients. So this is also something why I would suggest to collaborate with research institutes who have the knowledge what kind of ingredients are available there and how to achieve similar or even better results with something that is cheaper. So we are always, when we are doing our developments, we are always keeping in our minds also what does it cost at the end. So we always want to optimize it from the perspective of the price and quality.
I just want to also just add, both of them really explained very well, but just one additional point is, of course, also in terms of supply of ingredients. This is such a huge challenge at the moment, and this is something that's why we need more startups and more corporates working together to kind of increase the supply of quality alternative protein ingredients that can perform as well. So that's something that needs
That's a very good point that you brought out. That was actually my question. You can answer also, and if anybody wants to comment. What about the cooperation? We see so many startups, so long list was on the table also in the presentation of Mariliis. How do you see, is there enough cooperation or should there be more between the different startups?
You mean in terms of corporate partners? Or?
In all kind of cooperation. I may be even more thinking now ahead of this kind of innovation, because quite many are in the end tackling the same problem. Is it good that they are tackling, because everybody's tackling it differently and maybe one of them will find this brilliant solution? Or should there be more cooperation between those small startups? What do you think?
I think there's still a lot of potential for many partners to come in. It's still a very early stage space, and like Mariliis also said, like animal-based companies and products have had hundreds of years to evolve, and we're talking about an industry that's about maybe 10, 15, maybe 20 years old, and yeah, there's just a lot of scope and potential for new people to come in.
So it's a bigger potential to find something really brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about like outside of the food sector, like if we look into transportation and we look at the 100 or 200 years ago when we were just kind of moving around with horses and carriages, and then Henry Ford came with his car. I don't think that was the same people that were making that innovation. And when you asked consumers, they just wanted faster horses because they could not envision a car. Now, when we think about alternative energies, I'm less aware, maybe someone in the room knows better, but is it the big fossil fuel companies that are investing in renewables and making it happen, or it's another breed and type of entrepreneurs who are making that happen? So it's going to be interesting to see how the food space is going to go, whether it is the corporates playing together with startups and then figuring this whole thing out, or the startup just growing into the future corporations. I think both paths are still very viable, and food industry is such a linked ecosystem. You need so many people in all over the supply chain that I think there is room for cooperation, but looking at transportation, horses, cars, energy from fossil fuels to renewables, we have a lot to learn from.
Okay, and there is another question from the audience about the price, and there was already talked about that today, but what do you think, when will the price be at least equal? with the meat and then meat alternatives. Sirli, maybe your comments about that. I know it's just a prediction at the moment, but still.
It is. I was just wondering, if you think about meat, then there is very wide variation for what 1 kilo of meat costs, so it depends on the quality of the meat. So in that sense, I think it's a difficult question, because today on the market, the cheapest plant-based alternatives are already quite competitive, I think. The range, they are varying in very wide range. The same is for alternatives, the same is for the real meat. So as already discussed today, they will definitely move closer. Meat products are going more expensive, that's the truth. Technologies will develop, alternatives will go cheaper, but I wouldn't say out any dates now.
Okay. Any more talks about that price? Maybe US perspective
maybe
also?
Just throwing it out, having lived in the US for the past 5 years, I've seen Impossible Foods decrease, not increase, so decrease the other way around, their prices already twice. So they have come to the market with a certain price and then gone lower already twice, and they'll continue doing that. So I think it's going to happen sooner than later, and we're just going to wake up to that difference one day when we go to the supermarket.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just a function of scale, and like I said, the supply of protein ingredients needs to happen fast, so that there isn't the problem with the pricing is really that there just isn't enough at the moment, and that's reflecting in the price because there's no scale at the moment.
There will be more producers also in this case, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's more questions coming up. Very nice. Will the animal-based products become obsolete?
I don't think so. I think the way today, if you want to ride a horse, you can go and do that, right? But it's a luxury pleasantness that you can do and spend your time doing with. Maybe some people still use it, depending where in the world as a mean of transportation, they definitely do. So I feel I'm seeing more of a diverse future and more rich future in terms of like there are many more possibilities to choose from. But I think a traditional consumer who says that they want to buy that meat that, you know, my friend grew in the field that is actually just 1% of the whole production. I think those people will go to cell-based options because in the end of the day, it's about taste, price, and convenience. And when we have ticked that off, it doesn't really matter if we killed the animal for food or if we just grew it in an environment that is suitable for the cells of the animal.
Okay, thank you. There is an interesting question, but about maybe some easier question, or I don't know if it's easy actually. If you had to eat one plant-based product on the market at the moment for the rest of your life, okay, hard question, but anyway, what would it be? Can you maybe, just a quick answer maybe. What comes first in your mind?
I thought about sushi, but it's like a full product, so maybe I would choose that.
It's good. Mm-hmm.
As someone who cannot survive without coffee, I have to say the oat milk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The oat, yeah?
Oat, yeah. No,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
oat.
yeah, that's good. That's superfood, as it was mentioned before. And Sirli, what do you think? Any favorites?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of bananas, so.
Okay, good. But okay, I have more question on my own. Mariliis, you're facing every day some nice, crazy ideas. What do you think? What will be the next crazy idea in the field of future food? So something out of the box that we haven't talked about that much today.
Yes, just before I arrived here, I was in North Carolina, and where I live, and there's the NC State University that is close to my home, and there were some scientists there talking about the future of food. So I asked them, because they were talking about ideas like super far out there, so I asked if you had any unlimited amount of resources and some reasonable time, like in my lifetime, do you think you could make me into a photosynthetic plant that could just go into the sun, get the energy that I need, and then just eat what I like? Do you think that's possible? The lady went, no way in hell. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, well, wait a minute, but maybe. So that would be something that would be super out there. But what we heard from the audience was that we still eat for pleasure and the enjoyment and the company and the celebrations and in the event. So, I mean, if we had some 10 minutes in the sun, well, depending on this location, 10 minutes in the sun, then we could eat everything else for pleasure.
Okay, thank you. That's really out of the box idea, but I'm sure some futuristic people are thinking about it. Actually, I considered that talk just yesterday when I was thinking that if you have so many billions of people, that one day we can run out of resources, and that's the way we plants are to produce more resources back because of photosynthesis. So maybe some idea for a new startup. But okay, Divya, what are your folks? Some crazy idea that you have seen, maybe some startup is coming with something that you say, this is not possible?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I'm not talking to enough crazy people out there, but yeah, I haven't. And I think honestly, the cultivated space is crazy enough for me. I feel like it's really insane that we can, grow meat outside in a lab. Like, that's just insane. Yeah. So I think I'd go with that.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. And just today in the morning also, I was saying that for me, the crazy idea that can be really reality and they are testing is this cultivated coffee. For example, this is quite crazy for me that you can just grow coffee here also in our weather and drink it. So that's something for me. But Sirli, any crazy ideas?
I had the same non-original answer that there is a lot of crazy things already going on. So I think we have to solve these challenges first.
Yeah, but that's good because I think Mariliis' example about the cars is also that people are thinking why we have horses, why we need these kind of strange things moving around. Okay, I'm checking if there is any more questions coming. There is many questions competing with each other in terms of likes. So you can like the questions that you like the most. And there is quite interesting question. I don't know what are your thoughts about that, but today oats, soy, cells, and many other products were mentioned today. And there is question, what about chaga? It's a quite different, of course, topic, but I will still point it out.
Yeah, so maybe not in a context of like alternative proteins necessarily, but I stole a bit of time to spend in Estonia before I came to the conference. So I was just in Pärnu over the weekend. So who doesn't know, it's the summer capital. There's not much more sun there, but it's still the summer capital. However, I ordered the chaga sour, which was a mocktail, so non-alcoholic cocktail that had aquafaba, so chickpea water like made into foam, chaga, I think in the form of an elixir, and then some lemon or lime and something for sweetness. And it was so good. Like, I was so scared because they marketed it as something healthy and interesting. And when someone says that, you're not necessarily wanting to try it, but it was really, really good. So yeah, chaga as a mocktail, totally for me.
Okay, yeah, it's not, there is not so many, like the amounts of chaga are not so big to have it like alternative for something, but there is definitely something going on in this field. So we have about 7 minutes to the end because the tasty lunch is waiting. I will not try to exceed the time, but I will have some end questions. I see also questions here popping out. So let's start with Divya. When can we buy cultivated meat in Europe? What do you think? And will the price be similar to the meat? I know there is a problem with that. We will have a panel discussion later about that also, but maybe your opinion.
I don't know. I'll have to invent a time machine, go to the future, and figure this out. I don't know. I think there may be some clarity that needs to come in from regulators as well, and I think scaling cultivated is still something that a lot of startups are working on and trying to figure out how they can reach price parity. So yeah, I think, but there's a lot of really very smart people working to solve this problem. So yeah, I can't give you a definitive answer.
Yeah, of course. And do you find, is this one of the important part of the solution? We have plant-based protein alternatives, but how big role do you see in this cultivated meat part?
I think, yeah, there is a lot of potential for companies that are working on hybrid solutions, so working with plant-based ingredients, but also with some cultivated meat ingredients, cultivated fat, for instance, and it really brings the best of both, what both of these solutions can offer. So I definitely see a lot of value in those kind of companies that are working together with plant-based to develop really quality products that can compete very well with animal-based.
Okay, thank you. And Sirli, you've worked a lot on the fermentation part also. Can you emphasize, is fermentation something that is at the moment still underestimated in this field, plant-based protein in this term? And do you see that there should be more fermentation involved? We already heard from one presentation also.
Yeah, I think fermentation can deliver in different ways to this field, because one thing is about biomass fermentation, what also Mariliis mentioned. The other thing is to use fermentation as a treatment to improve the properties. In this sense, it has more potential in dairy alternatives because it is easier to carry it out in liquid state, and it makes it difficult for meat alternatives. But fermentation definitely, it helps to reduce all sort of different molecules that are not beneficial in this product. Are they some off-flavor causing things, some anti-nutrients, and also helps to improve the nutritional value of the product. So definitely, I think fermentation has a crucial role in here in different applications.
And if you think about the products that are already on the market, do you see it's still underused at the moment? I see Mariliis is nodding.
Yeah, I think it's widely used for dairy alternatives, but meat alternatives, I think there is potential because there is not too many products available that use it. We heard a presentation in the morning where fermented, it was fava bean, I think, that was used for meat alternatives. So that kind of solutions are definitely interesting.
And from the consumer perspective, do you find this kind of information also on the packaging will be beneficial for the product?
I think fermentation is something that consumers are used to and know it, and it relates to health benefits, and so I definitely think it's beneficial to communicate it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I'm also a fan. I mentioned already honesty in the beginning, so my opinion also. And Mariliis, I don't know if you can say you are more maybe in the US market, but when will be the market share of meat alternatives equal to the meat market? I know, again, I'm asking for the prediction, but that's what we like to talk about, the future.
Yeah, if you haven't read yet, there's a great report called Disrupting the Cow. So currently, I don't know if you're aware, but in the US, they produce so much milk that the people are not able to consume it or won't buy it. So they're making cheese out of it and then they store it. So they're keeping cheese reservoirs in the US so that they can store milk somehow so it wouldn't go to waste. So I think that sends a strong signal that consumers are not, that like the traditional industry currently overproduces and is unable to actually sell their whole production away. In some parts of the future, they also, in the future, sometimes some parts in the world at the moment, they already pour milk away because it has no value anymore. But what is beyond milk and meat, from cow you also get leather, you also get gelatin, you also get many other products. And those are the things that are really important in terms of the value. So once you substitute leather with like other biomaterials, be it mushroom, be it whatever people like banana peels or stuff they use to make shoes and stuff. So whenever you substitute the other parts of the cow, this industry is going to collapse because meat and milk are not the things that are driving value. So disrupting the cow, definitely have a look. And they predict that by 2030 that industry is gone.
Thank you. We have 1 minute left, but I will take 2 questions here, quite interesting questions. First to Sirli. Do you see the insect protein will make a competition on plant-based protein in the nearest future? The insects.
Yeah, I think with insect proteins there were also some regulative limitations before, so for that reason, it is maybe it hasn't been developed so far, the products from it. But insect protein also has a lot of sensory quality issues that needs to be solved before, because right now all the products on the market, if you look at them, they contain like 2 to 5% of insects, actually. So if you really want to make a product that would mainly contain protein from insects, it requires quite a lot of work.
Okay, thank you. And the last question for both of you, actually. That's a very nice question, I think. I want to do something and start my journey on developing something. What would be the first steps, or how could I start? Just maybe a quick answer to the audience.
Yeah, so one of the things that my partner Ryan recommends to people who want to start specifically in the food space, you can just go to the supermarket, look at all the shelves, and look at the products that you like, and then think, if they come from the traditional industry, how could you make them in an alternative way? So how, like, choose a product and then choose a technology, be it plant-based, be it cell-based, or like cultured, or be it fermentation. But if you don't know that it's food that you want to do in this world, ask yourself, if money was not a question, what would you be doing in this world?
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, that's a great answer. And yeah, I think the first step would be to join an incubator, maybe. Just putting it out there, because yeah, I feel like if as we really believe that we need to support really good teams, passionate founders, and with great ideas. And I think that this really equips you to take that next step and make your dream a reality, as cliched as that might sound. Yeah.
So do apply to ProVeg. We collaborate very, very, very closely, but also do apply to Sustainable Food Ventures. So you'll find that on our webpage, or just directly reach out to me. I have 3 I's in my name, so I think you can figure out where they go and then just reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the first step is to contact these nice persons here. Look, they are very friendly and waiting for you, and they can be critical also, as you saw, so be ready. But that's very nice. And if you need the support of R&D, and Sirli is definitely waiting for new solutions, also new crazy ideas. So thank you, everybody. Now we have a last task to select the best questions. I don't know, of course, here I couldn't ask the questions with 5 likes because we're out of time, and it's actually we can ask the same question in the last. But was there any question that you would really like?
I think I personally like the last question. Like, if you are trying to find your place and find your purpose and find your meaning in this life, I think it's a very deep and a very important question that do take time out of your busy schedules to, I don't know, sit under a tree and meditate, or just, read a book or something where that insight might be hidden in. But taking the time for yourself and figuring it out, I love that question.
Yeah, thank you. You took it very nicely also together, and I think it's really important to, if you have a very good idea, start to communicating with right persons. Go to knock on that door. They will let you in and talk about your nice ideas. So thank you, everybody. The question that Mariliis mentioned, please come and pick up your prize. And thank you, everybody. Now it's lunchtime. Yes, Karin will give us instruction about the lunch.
Yeah, you can applaud.